Hi there, and welcome to the Check-In with Image Media, our health-related podcast that we hope will empower you, give you some really fundamental medical insight and expertise that will just help your life become better and your health profile soar, regardless of your age or whatever your life stage is at. I'm your host, Melanie Morris, and I'm delighted to join the conversation the team at Image has initiated with some leading medical minds as we explore the realities of our health across every decade. Because we at Image know when women are informed, we are absolute and pure dynamite. Image, the Check-In, is empowered by Boots and sponsored by Samsung and Waterstone Clinic. And we have a great guest today. It is Caoimhe McAuley, who is Director of Pharmacy at Boots. Caoimhe actually was our first guest at the first Check-In, and she had so much to share, so many really practical tips, and she spoke in such normal language about medical things that we thought it would be great to get her on in advance of the summer. And as May is Skin Cancer Awareness Month, we thought it might be worth dwelling on a little bit of skin health there also. So enjoy the next while. I hope there's plenty to take out, and I will pass over to the expert. Caoimhe, welcome back, and it's lovely to have you as our first return guest on the Check-In.
Thank you. It's lovely to be back again.
Oh, brilliant. Well, I think you were with us actually just as we went into winter last time. Mm-hmm. Now we are going into summer, and please goodness, it's going to be a great one for anything that we rate as being great. But it's a really good time maybe to check in with you. But you've some news of your own. Since we met you last, you've had a huge big new appointment.
Yes, I am absolutely delighted to say since we were last together, I have been appointed as the president of the Irish Pharmacy Union. So the last time we were together, I would have been the vice president, served that for 2 years, and now have taken on the role of the president, which is an absolute honour. I am a massive advocate of pharmacy, I think, as you can probably tell from the conversation before and hopefully from this one. And this role gives me the opportunity to represent wider community pharmacy in a system at the moment which is completely changing. We are seeing a massive evolution of the role of the pharmacist, and I think I spoke a little bit to that the last time that we were together, but even since then to now, it has dramatically changed. And I think what we're seeing is a real shift in line with government policy, and a government that really wants to see pharmacy being utilised as almost the health centres in their communities, and pharmacists practicing at the top of their skill set, which they absolutely are educated to do, and bringing care a lot closer to home for our patients in our communities as well. So it's an incredibly exciting time, and as I've said, a real honour.
A real honour, but at a time when there has probably never been more change.
No, exactly. And what a fantastic time to be involved in shaping it and bringing it to life. I mean, those who've come before me, the previous presidents, have obviously done a lot of work in getting us to this point. But I just think it's such a fantastic honour to now be able to lead the charge for community pharmacy as the role changes and evolves.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
We can see we're in good hands here.
Thank you. Thank you.
To get down to the point of today's conversation, and I think we want to talk about our best health and also preserving ourselves in summer and at a time maybe when we're going to be outdoors more. And I think here's the problem. I think we all think we know about sun health, and yet Irish people have a huge gap in our knowledge, don't we?
Yeah,
and in our adhesion.
Yeah, we do. I think it's sad. We are the country with one of the highest continuing growing rates of diagnosed skin cancer, over 13,000 per year, and that number is still growing. I completely agree with what you said. I think there is a mix in terms of our knowledge and understanding. And I would say that has got better. I mean, the HSE have done a lot of campaigns on SunSmart and trying to really get us to understand taking care of our skin in the sun. But I think perhaps our behaviours don't necessarily always reflect that enhanced knowledge that we probably should have around how to stay safe in the sun.
Well, I think it's almost similar to, we know that supplementing our incomplete diet with healthcare supplements is a good idea. We all have cases full of them at home, or a lot of us do, myself included. Yet, do we consistently every day take the supplements we're meant to take?
Yeah.
So can we just talk about, let's start at the very beginning and let's talk about SPF, when we should be wearing it, how often we should be applying it, what we do with kids, what we do with older people, what we do with balding heads. Can you give us the full 360 on that so we're all on the same page before we begin?
Okay. So probably to start with us as Irish citizens. So your skin tone can actually impact how you respond to UV. And that's characterised by what they call the Fitzpatrick scale. It ranges from 1 potentially being the highest risk and 6 being the lowest risk. In Ireland, we are typically classified as about 1 to 2, meaning that we are very fair-skinned, we tend to burn quite easily, and we tend not to tan. And that means actually that we need to be very careful about how we look after our skin when we're out in the sun. So that's probably the first thing. The second big misconception about taking care of yourself is that it must be a sunny day for you to apply sunscreen. So actually, what probably is quite unknown is that the UV is classed as moderate or 3 in Ireland from about April to September. So even on those cloudy days, the UV rays are still penetrating through. So when you put those two things together, I think sometimes we just don't think we need to wear sunscreen or sun protection.
Or we're in a rush out the door.
Or we're in a rush out the door. But actually, we should be wearing it every single day. SPF 30 is about the minimum that we should be wearing. But actually, if you really are that type 1, type 2 who does burn, probably factor 50 is actually what you should be wearing every day. And I think to come back to your point, as women, sometimes we see SPF in our makeup and we think, well, okay, maybe that's enough. Truthfully, you would have to apply a very heavy layer of that makeup to actually get the full UV protection that product is saying it has. So I would actually always recommend that you wear an SPF even under your foundation.
So the ones in products are boosters, not barriers.
Yes.
That kind, you know.
I think that's the best way to think about it. And I mean, we're so lucky now with our choice of different skin brands. A lot of those also do have SPF in them. But it's probably just being mindful that actually between April and September, you are exposed to moderate UV every single day. I would say the same for children who are playing outside, school breaks for the summer, creches break for the summer. Absolutely factor 50. And again, it is on those cloudy days where the kids are outside and you think, well, it's not sunny, it's probably okay. They're still getting exposure to UV rays. So I would say if you are outdoors at all in that period, you really should be considering applying an SPF.
Well, when you look at what the Australians do, I mean, it is a criminal offence not to put SPF on a kid, am I right?
Yeah.
And everywhere has SPF available to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think we're all aware, but we just sometimes don't follow through with our behaviours. And, when you think about it as well, we have, different people, different demographics who are working in different conditions. Men are a prime example. Farmers, golfers, outdoor activities. Men should be wearing SPF as well. We tend to talk a lot about women and children, but actually men who are exposed outdoors every single day should be thinking about wearing SPF as well. And you're right, if you think about the Australian model too, it's not just the SPF, it's slap on the hat, put on the shirt, it's cover up, it's those good behaviours that actually stop the penetration of UV.
How often do we need to reapply in a day? On a cloudy, normal day, is one application in the morning enough?
It depends on what product you're using. So some will say once a day application, others will say every 4 to 6 hours, others will say, for example, if you swim, if you're outdoors or something like that, reapply after the activity. What I would say is follow closely what the product tells you to. But if I'm being honest, even if it said once a day, I would be applying it more than that. So if I do think about my own activities, I would be thinking about reapplying after a certain period in the sun. So if I were in the sun for 4 to 6 hours and I were out in the garden or something like that, I probably would be thinking of reapplying again then too.
And for those of us running around the city, or those of us, engaged in everyday life, I mean, there is that thing about, I don't want to take everything off to put on. Can we spray on over
You
makeup?
absolutely can.
Yeah.
But put it under your makeup in the morning first.
Okay.
Yep. So that's where you'll almost get your barrier or your base, and then you can reapply again. And again, just remember, depending on the formulations, some of them you actually need to apply a little bit before you go into the sun, even if you are just topping up.
That's a very good point. Yeah. I always remember hearing one dermatologist, and I thought it was a great, great tip, Rosemary Coleman, says that you should push your SPF where you push your toothbrush. And now where I also put my lash serum.
Yep.
And if the three are together, they're looking at you.
Yeah.
And while you're brushing your teeth, you can be sticking on your lash serum, throwing on your SPF, and it just gives everything time to sink in.
Very good memoir. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Men and bald heads, or thinning hair, and women with thinning hair.
Absolutely. You think about yourself, where you most commonly miss application. And it's for women, it's along the line of your hair, regardless of whether your hair is thinning or not. For men, absolutely, if you have that balding spot, you absolutely want to make sure you apply SPF there. But other common areas, the eyelids and around the eyes, actually, if you think about it yourself too, you're always quite cautious about putting makeup or moisturisers close to your eyes. On top of the feet is another place, and around the lips and the mouth, so the skin is much thinner. So you really should be thinking about applying SPF there too.
Yeah. You mentioned something earlier there, and I do think it's the take-home message where you say if we are of the skin type that is on the 1 or 2 end of the Fitzpatrick scale, we're not meant to tan.
No.
So stop chasing.
And again, I understand aesthetically, a lot of us want that look, but there's absolutely fantastic fake tan products out there too. And there's more and more of those available. Look, obviously, a lot of people ask as well, well, should I not be spending time in the sun for vitamin D absorption? You do, but you'll also achieve significant vitamin D absorption from our climate. You don't need to sunbathe to get vitamin D penetration and vitamin D synthesis.
So that's not a good enough excuse.
It's not. I'm afraid it's not.
Now, I know the answer to this, but I want to hear it from a medical perspective. For the ones of us who are going, look, I'm going over to Spain, I'm just going to do a quick little course of sunbeds to get my skin used to the sun. What do you say?
Please don't.
Okay.
Look, I think all of us at some point have thought about the idea, but there is no safe way to use a sunbed, despite what you may have been told or you may believe. And actually, we know that skin cancer rates are much higher in those who have used sunbeds below the age of 35.
35?
Below the age of 35. The rates are much higher for skin cancer if you've used a sunbed below that age, because that is when essentially you're doing the most damage to your skin. And it is frightening, because I do see a culture where, sunbed use is still there, and it's not for me to judge and it's not for me to police, but there is no safe way to use a sunbed. So please don't.
And I would like to layer something onto that if that message doesn't get through enough, on the shorter term, I made a very stupid mistake of doing about maybe 3 sunbed treatments. I mean, it would have been a decade ago or longer. I got the worst dermatitis.
Yeah.
So even whatever was going on in regards to long-term harm, if you were doing sunbeds to try and aesthetically look good in the short term, I don't get spots. I came out in spots.
Yeah.
It was some
But you think about the intensity.
Yeah.
You think about the exposure in a short period of time. I mean, most sunbed sessions are 3, 6, 9 minutes.
It's intense.
Intense.
Yeah.
It's not good for your skin.
So it's not that you're doing any long-term harm, which you are, but you may also end up with a face full of spots.
Absolutely. Even aging.
Yeah.
So if you think about your UVA and your UVB rays, UVA is very much associated with the deeper penetration, the pigmentation changes and the aging. And, whilst perhaps when we're younger aesthetically, we might want to be more tanned, I know as we age, we all want to make sure we keep our skin looking young as well. And some of that damage that you can do from sun is quite hard to reverse.
Yeah. And as you say, there are so many tanning products, long-term ones, short-term ones,
drops,
gradual
creams,
ones.
everything. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So that's where we're going to go. Now, let's talk about the heavier side of things. And obviously, what we're talking about is for information basis. If people have any questions, any ifs, buts, doubts, theories, straight to a doctor or a healthcare professional. But just in terms of awareness, let's talk about skin cancer, because I don't understand how Irish people can have the highest level in Europe. Surely a Mediterranean country would be more susceptible to skin cancers.
I think it probably comes back to what I spoke about earlier. I think it's that awareness of actually your skin tone and therefore your sensitivity, and also the awareness that UV penetrates clouds. I think there's very few of us would go to a Mediterranean country and not put on sunscreen if we were outside.
True.
So I think it is sometimes just a lack of awareness. I think we understand sun damage and we understand, you know, the relationship with skin cancer, but I think sometimes we just don't realise the exposure that we have to it here every single day. And I think it's trying to really educate people to understand that, because I think that's probably the biggest barrier. And I do think we have a mix. So I think we have, you know, a younger generation who are probably much more aware and are much more savvy about skincare products. So, you know, you think about younger generations now and they're very heavily influenced by TikTok and all of the different skin creams and all of that, that actually they're quite careful about how they treat their skin and protect their skin. We probably have the generation of mine, I'm in my 40s and above, who when we were young, it would probably have been unheard of to put sun cream on us as children while we were running about outside. And then we actually have quite, as I said, a large farming community and a lot of men who work outdoors. So again, it's just not really the connect that being outside in a cloudy environment every single day is still giving you exposure to UV rays.
And I want to ask you a few questions now about skin cancer, if I may. The first one is it always a dark mole, or what does skin cancer look like or feel like?
No, so it's not always a mole, and that is a really important point. So a lot of people associate skin cancer with moles, and moles definitely, we'll talk about those in a moment, they're very important, and there's actually quite specific criteria with a mole that you do look out for to understand, you know, if it's changing or anything sinister that may be going on there. But it's also things like red spots, so new red spots that don't necessarily disappear, pearly type spots on your skin.
Pearly?
Pearly, like a translucent pearly spot. So some of those can be early signs of a basal carcinoma.
And is that a raised spot or is that flush?
It depends. It can be flush or it can be slightly raised. And it's really important, I say, can be, because a red spot can just be a red spot and a raised pearly lump can just be, you know, like a blocked subcutaneous gland or something like that. So it's not to scaremonger. Our skin changes all of the time, but it's specific things just to keep an eye on. So those two, as I've said, or a new skin lesion that just won't heal. So a new spot or lesion that appears that just won't heal or seems to keep reopening. Things like that are really, really important to look out for. Moles, quite specific. So I think a lot of us have moles, a lot of us have freckles.
Yep.
Yeah. And there is quite clear criteria with a mole that you watch out for, and it's the A, B, C, D, E.
Okay.
And so the A is asymmetrical. So if you think about a mole, the shape of it on both sides should broadly be the same. If one side really starts to change or looks quite different than the other side, then you would want to get that checked out. B is borders. So the borders of a mole should almost be quite cohesive. Okay, if you start to notice it, I suppose, becoming quite patchy or starting to change, that again is another sign to look out for. C, colour. So a mole will be a particular colour on your body, but it's a changing colour, and it's a mole that darkens or sometimes takes a blue tinge is the colours to watch out for. D is diameter. So anything above about 5 to 6 millimetres. It's quite big.
Yeah, half a centimetre.
Yeah, that is. And growing or changing is, again, another one you want to look out for. And then the last one, E, kind of encompasses everything I've said before, evolving. So anything that looks like it is changing is something that you would want to get checked out. So, itching, changing in colour, changing in size, the diameter becoming more jaggy. Anything like that is one to definitely look out for.
Is there a pain always involved? Is there,
No.
We're all human, oozings or
No.
nothing like that?
Not always necessarily.
Right.
And it can be very subtle changes. And it's not, again, to scare, because actually one of the things about skin cancer is the survival rates for skin cancer when caught early are absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
But it's been very cognizant of your skin and any changes in your skin. For women, believe it or not, where you have skin cancer, it tends to be on the lower limbs.
That was my next question, because we'd be familiar maybe with the ones on our faces and our arms, but they can be anywhere.
Yeah,
can't they?
for women it tends to be on your lower limbs. For men it tends to be on your chest, your back. So again, it's really important you also look at those areas that might be a little bit hard for you to see and to notice changes in as well. So we offer it in Boots in select stores. You can also get it in certain private clinics too. But essentially what this is you will go in, you'll make an appointment, you'll go into one of our stores who offer the service, and you will have a private consultation with the healthcare consultant. You'll fill out a brief questionnaire, really talking about which lesions or moles it is that you want to have, I suppose, assessed, and it's up to 4 at a time. You will then have an image taken of the mole or lesion with specialised equipment, and that then goes to a dermatologist in screen cancer to be read.
Wow.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. And then the results will come back. And if there's anything suspicious or anything that, the dermatologist wants to have a conversation with you about, then they will contact you. But I'm going to share a really personal story because I think it is so important. And this to me plays into the accessibility and the importance of community pharmacy and services like this in community pharmacy. So in my role, I'm often out and about in our stores, and I happened to be in one of our stores maybe about 18 months ago, 2 years, and I was talking, it was a store that provides the mole service, and I happened to talk to the advisor, and I just said off the cuff, I must make an appointment because I have a little mark on my face actually that I'm quite worried about, and I just, I want to get somebody to look at it because I'm not going to have time to go into my own GP. And the healthcare advisor there and then said to me, do you know what, Caoimhe, let's do it right now, because actually you're the one who's always saying to us we shouldn't put stuff like this off. I don't have an appointment, I'm going to take in right now. And it was a tiny red mark on my cheek that was starting to change colour, because I will admit I was one of those people when I was younger, was very fond of being out in the sun, and such is life. So I had the consultation, completely private, completely painless, very, very pleasant. And I got contacted 48 hours later from screen cancer.
Firstly, how speedy, but secondly, how terrifying.
Yeah. Well, no, I must say, the way in which they contacted me was so reassuring. It was only I knew, the process that, but they contacted me and they had said, look, obviously you've had this carried out. We just maybe want to have a conversation with you. There's just something that we want to double check with that image that we took. So it was, again, a really personable phone call. I didn't actually feel scared. I felt reassured because I felt this was important. I was right. I did notice something was funny, and I'm really glad I got it checked out. So we had a conversation, and then they said to me, look, we would advise you to go to your GP. It may not be anything sinister, but we're noticing changes. So we would advise you to go and get it checked out, which I did. And I was referred and had it removed. And at the time, the dermatologist said to me, it's nothing sinister right now, but it has the makings of something that if left unattended could be sinister into the future.
Well, firstly, how fortunate that all of those plans aligned. But secondly, that really is a lesson for all of us. And I presume you just go into a Boots and make an appointment. Can you make an appointment on the app?
You can make an appointment online, you can make an appointment on the app, or you can just walk in and say, look, could you see me? Is there a time today you could see me? Or when could you see me? And make an appointment. It's so quick. It's so painless.
Do you have to completely strip off, or do you just roll up a sleeve or roll
depends.
up a leg?
So look, obviously, in the confines of a pharmacy retail environment, there'll be certain areas we won't scan.
Yeah.
But most of them we will, and you'll just be asked to expose the area of skin that you're wanting to have assessed. And it's just an image. It's a spatial device that takes a very detailed image of the particular mole, freckle, lesion, whatever it is that you want to look at. You'll be in and out within 15 minutes.
God, that's incredible. So the next step would be they recommend you go to your GP.
Yes.
The interesting thing that I think you've hit on there, where you were saying it was fine, but it could have turned into something. All moles, all little lumps or bumps, they're so not the same when it comes to skin cancer.
No.
There are many sorts, am I right?
You're absolutely correct.
And different stages of many sorts.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is one of those where, you know, everyone's skin will be different. And as we age, our skin naturally changes anyway. So changes are completely normal, but it's just that you're very aware of, and I actually say this really with anything and everything beyond skin. Anything that looks or feels different to you, you know your body better than anyone else. And what I say with a mole, a lesion, a freckle, pigmentation, it's something that you notice is different or changing. And that's when it's always best just to seek advice. And it's to not be scared to seek advice, because actually the mole service, you know, that's a brilliant way for you to go in and have it quickly assessed and give you peace of mind, but also know that actually if there is something there, you can access treatment very, very quickly.
The dermatologists that the information is sent on to, are they part of the Boots network or?
No, so it's a company called Screen Cancer. So they work in partnership with Boots, but it's not a Boots doctor per se. It's a specialist dermatologist themselves.
Brilliant. And then they give you advice.
And then they will give you advice. They'll give you the results back, and then it'll be one of their specialised healthcare advisors will give you the results back as well.
This episode of Image the Check-In is empowered by Boots. Boots pharmacies are with you for life. They're often the very first stop when it comes to advice, care and guidance. And for all facets of women's health at every age and every stage, Boots is here to help us feel informed, supported and empowered every step of the way. We're proud to partner with them and to bring you the knowledge you need to future-proof your health. Can I ask you, and I don't know if there's a medical answer to this one, but a lot of skincare products we use aim to change the skin. So it might be a retinol. It might be something to get rid of melasma. It might be something to get rid of what they would call sun damage or to even out skin tone. Are they problematical to use at all, do you think?
I wouldn't say problematic, but I would say understand the side effects of using them. So with retinols, one of the big side effects, and I use retinol myself, one of the big side effects is the thinning of the skin. So when you use a retinol, your skin, the cell turnover increases. That's what retinol does. It increases your cell turnover. But as a result, your skin can be a little bit thinner when you're using retinol. So it is incredibly important that when you're using retinol, you use an SPF during the day. So most of us will use retinol at night. It is absolutely essential that during the day you use an SPF, because when your cell turnover is increasing and your skin is slightly, more sensitive, that is when you are more likely to burn and you are more likely then to potentially do damage to your skin.
So really, if we're looking at a calendar for skincare and, treating our skin throughout the year, would a retinol product be better maybe to use in the wintertime?
What I would say is if you're going to be exposed to very strong sun, I probably wouldn't be using a retinol at that time. And actually, most of the times, if you're using a retinol and you're going to a higher UV, they probably will say, look, ease off the retinol for a week to 2 weeks before you go. But probably what I would also say is actually taking care of your skin isn't seasonal. You really should be thinking about, even if you're using a retinol in the winter months, Are you still exposing your skin during the day to UV? And should you be wearing SPF 30? Yes.
Right.
And then how does that change in the summer, depending on what your plans are too?
So October to March, you can do a 30, and then April to September.
Well, if you were to
50.
ask me clinically,
Okay.
I would say 50 all the time.
Just go with 50 to
I would
be
say
safe.
50 all of the time is the clinical answer I would give. But I know that some creams and makeups, very few of those actually have the 50 in them. At best, it's a 30. So, you know, again, it comes down to your exposure. Like in the winter months, are you outside that much as well? You know, so it's even thinking about the daylight and the darkness hours and the amount of time outside. I think in the winter, unfortunately, we get up and it's dark. We commute to work. We come home and it's dark. You're probably not getting the same exposure. In the summer, it's that bit brighter. You tend to be out and about a little bit more. You are getting more exposure.
So, you know, as we said, first thing in the morning, before a nose goes outside the door, it gets covered up with a 50.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Can I also ask you about things like IPL or, you know, those kind of cleansing products that have acids in them? We need to be careful of those treatments and products, don't we?
Anything like that strips the skin barrier, or anything like that aims to increase cell turnover, will also inadvertently make the skin more sensitive. And that is where you need to be careful. So again, if you're having any laser or IPL, they will be very clear with you. Make sure you wear SPF. If you're out in the sun, make sure you continue to wear it for a period of time after. I probably would say, we may not always be aware actually of retinol and products like that in skincare, because I think, you know, the ranges are increasing so much and it's so much more prevalent. It's really important to actually check what's in the skincare product you're using and to follow any instructions that go with it, like use SPF.
Yeah. To come back to the skin cancer side of things, if you're pregnant, should you be mole mapping and doing things like that? Or, you know, if you're older, are you more susceptible to these kind of things? Are there any little milestones or tips you can give us?
Yeah, so there's probably a couple of things. Some of us have more moles than others, and some of us have more freckles than others. If you're one of those individuals, you should absolutely be doing it very, very frequently. We offer our service from over 18, and I would say, to be honest, it's something that you probably should look at annually and just check, you know, is everything okay? But again, if you notice anything changing, it doesn't matter whether you last got screened 2 months ago. If you notice significant change, that's when you should also get it double checked. So depending on the number of moles and freckles and you know what your skin is actually like, that will probably determine how often you do it. You raised about ladies who get pregnant and women going through the menopause. Obviously, we have different hormonal changes at those points in our lives, and they affect our estrogen levels. And women going through the menopause, our estrogen levels drop, and that can actually lead to a thinning of the skin, and it can lead to increased sensitivity of the skin and potentially increased pigmentation of the skin. That again is very important at that stage in your life, to be cognizant of any changes in your skin.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so there's no winning at menopause, is there?
Well, look, I think I often say we're blessed to get to in a world of health and where my focus is health. I actually think we're blessed to get to menopause, and it is something that we should celebrate when we get there. But it's a challenge. There are bits of menopause that definitely make it quite tricky for us.
Maybe it's the wisdom that we've gathered along the way that is the advantage.
Maybe.
That maybe we won't be celebrating with a load of sunbed sessions. It's amazing that we should highlight there are some amazing SPF products out there that are tinted, that come with skincare benefits. There are fun products to use out there, aren't there?
There absolutely are, as you've said, that are tinted. So if we're looking for that gradual tan as well, there's some that actually do that as well for you. There's some, I mean, I was only actually even looking this morning, that some that now contain vitamin C that brighten your skin at the same time. There's loads of additional benefits, because I think we've realised cosmetically as well, the product also needs to do a bit of something else for us. And I think you're seeing a lot of products move into that space where they can offer you additional benefits on top of the SPF. And the SPF should always be the primary focus of any of those products. But if they give us a little bit of something as well when we use them, we're probably more likely to.
That's the reward.
Yeah, absolutely.
So hopefully loads of us have lots of lovely summer plans and we're going to be heading away. What should we be doing when we get to the sun? Because, I mean, I think the days of, lathering ourselves in olive oil and lying there for hours on end, we know we're not meant to do that. What should we be doing though?
Okay, so number one, I'm not going to be a complete killjoy and say I don't myself love time in the sun whenever I go on holidays. But I think it's about being sensible. So it's thinking about, when are you out in the sun? So are you out in its most intense? In those periods, put a hat on. Do try and stay in the shade. Don't be in the intense sun at that period of time. Wear your SPF all day and reapply that accordingly. Particularly, as I said, if you're getting in and out of swimming pools or in and out of the sea, just think about that too.
And I suppose there's a lot to be said for the hats, the sunglasses, stop you getting headaches.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And those of us who are planning on doing a good few sporting things, it's really important to get a waterproof SPF, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And again, no waterproof SPF can ever be 100% waterproof. So reapply.
Very, very good. Very good. You touched at the beginning of this conversation about all the change going on in pharmacy. And I mean, there is so much going on.
Yeah.
I know that we've mentioned it before, but it might be worth touching on again. What sort of other services can we get from our pharmacist at the moment?
Yeah, so I think what's really exciting is that we are seeing more of an evolution in pharmacy away from the traditional services or on top of the traditional services such as dispensing of medicines and medicines information, to more clinical services in community pharmacy as well. So I think since the last time we spoke, common conditions was just around the corner. That's gone live in community pharmacy just as of December, the start of the year.
And that's all pharmacies?
Yes, that's all pharmacies are available and are eligible to do it. And the majority are participating in offering the service as well.
So it's eye problems?
Yeah, so it's currently based around what we call 8 common conditions, and they are so called because they are the common things that are seen in pharmacy every single day. And it's things like, conjunctivitis, impetigo, uncomplicated UTIs, thrush, cold sore. It's the things that you're seeing in pharmacy every single day. And what is quite different now is that as a patient before, you may have come into your pharmacy still with the same condition. But if you required a prescription-only treatment, your pharmacist would have had to refer you to your GP. Now what happens is you come into your pharmacy, you'll have a private consultation, your pharmacist will assess, will diagnose and will offer treatment. And that treatment can still be an over-the-counter treatment where appropriate, but also may now involve the administration of a prescription-only medicine, meaning that you don't have to go to your GP to get that prescription, which is absolutely incredible for patients. And, when you think about early access and convenience, really, really important in our communities and for our patients, particularly with some of those conditions which are quite time-bound, but also for our GP colleagues, because we are now freeing up time for our GP colleagues to deal with more complex conditions also.
But I'm also just thinking, I presume it does everybody huge benefit getting a good relationship going with your pharmacist, because the more we get to know each other, the more the pharmacist can help the patient and the more the patient can enlighten the pharmacist about what they need.
Yeah, I referenced it at the start, but pharmacists are probably the most accessed healthcare providers within our local communities. And I think the public trust and the public confidence in our pharmacists and really the public's understanding of what your pharmacist can do has really accelerated since COVID. And that was, a very difficult time. And often your pharmacist may be the place that remained open and may have been your point of contact. That certainly, I think, really accelerated the role between the patient and the pharmacist and really showed what, I suppose, your pharmacy can offer in your local community. But yes, your pharmacist and you probably know each other quite well. you probably see them at least once a month if you're dealing with your own medication or your family's. In fact, I was reading a stat around there's over, I think it's 115 million visits to community pharmacy annually. So we are one of the most accessed healthcare providers. And even just having someone to be able to have that confidential conversation with, whatever it's about, is so important. Because one of the things I always say about health is it can sometimes be that casual conversation at a counter where you just mention something that's on your mind, you start a conversation, and then actually end up identifying there may be something here that you want to explore further, or there may be different, treatments you can access, and so on and so forth.
It's never a wasted trip, definitely.
Never.
2 questions to wrap with. The first one is with regard to you, Caoimhe. So you've been in pharmacy for over 20 years. What career did you think you were going into? And what do you actually do all day, every day?
That's a very good question.
When you were going into college to study pharmacy, did you think you were going to be weighing out pills all day?
I hoped I wasn't. I hoped I wasn't, because when I think about the programme that pharmacists go through and the clinical expertise that we have, I had hoped that I would end up being able to utilise my skill set beyond being the medicines expert. Because I think one of the other things, and it probably is important for me to say, is, the dispensing of medicines is incredibly important. The medicines expertise that pharmacists are able to provide, the conversations we can have about medicines optimization, about interactions and so on and so forth, that's core. That is core to what we do, and it's incredibly important. But we can do so much more, and we can offer so much more in our local communities. And to come back and answer your question, I had hoped that I would come out into a world where I could do more than the traditional services. And I am so happy to see that after a period of probably slower change than some other countries, that actually we have a Minister for Health and a government who is now accelerating the pace of change in pharmacy to a point where I think we will leapfrog other countries in terms of pharmacists really being that health hub in our local communities. I'm really proud to be a pharmacist. I'm really proud of where we're going. And I think what we're seeing now is just the tip of the iceberg. I think if I were sitting here again in 6-12 months' time, we would be talking about a lot of services that you never thought that you would be having a conversation with your pharmacist about.
It's brilliant. Well, it seems the evolution has literally gone staggeringly bolt upright on the graph. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And all our listeners and people watching today, if they were to take 1 or 2 tips going into summer from this conversation, what would you be asking them to do?
1 or 2 tips. Probably what I would say is know your own body. So whether that is in relation to skincare or whether that is in relation to anything else that's going on with your health, know your own body and actually be alert to changes, and don't be afraid to have a conversation about anything that's concerning you. I think I said on our last podcast, for me, prevention is always better than the cure. But actually the cure sometimes as well has evolved so much that we shouldn't ever be scared to get to a point when we need to seek treatment as well. So going into summer, know yourself and reach out if you have any concerns at all. And then particularly because we've had a conversation about summer, I would say reach for the SPF. We all want to have a lovely, enjoyable summer. We all want to have some downtime with our families. And enjoy that. Don't be afraid to enjoy it, but reach for the SPF.
Brilliant. Caoimhe, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for checking in with us today. I hope there was plenty to take out of the episode. I think Caoimhe had lots of really, really good tips that will hopefully help us roll into a brilliant, brilliant summer. Image, the check-in, is empowered by Boots and sponsored by Samsung and Waterstone Clinic. If you liked what you heard, please like, share, leave some feedback, and send on to maybe another woman in your community that you feel could benefit from the advice.